Thank you for joining me. My name is Sarah, and I work at the Elmhurst Public Library, Makery. Today, we're going to show you how to take an image and convert it into a vector design. This is important when using equipment like our laser cutter. Our laser cutter has two functions, the raster engrave, which etches onto the surface of your material, and the vector cut, which cuts through up to 1/4 of an inch of your material. The vector cut function is the function that absolutely requires a vector design. These are commonly made with programs like Inkscape or Illustrator. Today we're going to focus on Inkscape, which can be downloaded for free at inkscape.org. There's also additional tutorials you can find on their Learn section to learn more about their program. Once you have it downloaded, this is what the software looks like. To get started, we're going to find an image to use to trace. So we're going to go to google.com and I'm going to search for a design, preferably in black and white because these work a little bit better. And I'm going to switch to my Images tab. And to make sure I'm not violating copyright laws, I'm going to go to Tools, Usage Rights, and Labeled for Reuse. I'm then going to find an image that I like, and I'm going to right-click on it and save the image. And I just want to make sure that the image is a PNG, JPEG, or TIFF file type. Other file types might not work. And I'm going to hit Save. I'm then going to go to my Inkscape design or document, and I'm going to set it up for my piece of wood. Inkscape defaults in millimeters, so to change that, I'm going to go to File, Document Properties. I'm going to change the display units to inches. And I'm going to pretend I'm using a 12 by 12 inch sheet of wood, which is a common measurement sold by hobby stores. And now that my document is set up for 12 by 12 inches, I can insert my PNG image by going to File, Import. I saved it to my Downloads folder, so I'm going to click on that file and hit Open. And I'm going to click OK to import. Once it's in my document, it is not yet ready to be used for vector cutting. In order for that to be used for vector cutting, we have to trace it using the Path Trace Bitmap function. We're going to use the brightness cutoff option, and because our image is in black and white, I'm going to keep it at 0.45 for the threshold. If you have an image that is multicolor or with grays in it, you might need to increase that number in order to get all of your details traced properly. Once you hit Update, you'll get a preview of what that trace will look like. And then when you hit OK, it will trace it for you. And we're going to exit out of this menu. And so we're still not done. What Inkscape does is it traces on top of the original image. So if I click and drag, you'll notice that I now have two designs. And I'm going to zoom in so we can see these a little better. And if I were to send this as is right now to our laser cutter, we can see that the images are fine if we were trying to raster engrave only. But if we were trying to vector cut, what we'd end up with is the rectangle for the original JPEG PNG image and the outline of the traced vector. And that's what we want to keep and save. So if we go back to Inkscape, we know that this one to our left is the original image. If we double click on it, nothing happens to it, so we can delete it. We know the one on the right was the vector. If we double click on it, we will get path nodes to modify, but we won't worry about doing that for this design. So now that we have a vector traced, we can resize it for our piece of wood. So we're going to go up here and we're going to lock the proportions. And because our biggest proportion is its height, I'm going to take that and I'm going to modify it for 11.5 inches. So I have a 1/2 inch margin with my wood. And I want to make sure that my design is not going off the page. So I'm going to click and drag it on top of the design. Everything's ready to go. The last thing we need to do is go to File, Save As, and save your image as an SVG file. Once it's saved, you can save it to a USB drive, come into the Makery, and use our laser cutter. Thanks for joining me.